Greetings, friends around the world. This is Dr. Bob Thiel for the Bible News Prophecy channel. In the United States, Americans like to think that they are the land of the free and the home of the brave. At least that's how they tend to view their country, at least some who consider themselves patriotic. But as far as free goes, I'd like to read a headline I saw this morning. Free abortions for everyone in Oregon. A measure on its way to Governor Kate Brown requiring health insurance plans to include free coverage for elective abortions and an array of other pregnancy-related services for all insured, regardless of their gender identity, is certain to reverberate far beyond the state of Oregon. She's talking about free abortions. Now, this particular writer said, "I don't find abortion morally abhorrent." He just felt that the way it's going to be paid for is an issue, but no problem with abortion. Abortion is immoral. Read some more about this particular development. It says this bill will force taxpayers to assume some of the costs of abortions, even though many oppose the procedure. It passed, and it's going to require the insurance companies to cover abortions at no cost to the patient. And this article from the AP is a different article, says Oregon already had some of the most liberal abortion laws in the country. The new measure was introduced in response to federal attempts to curtail reproductive services. The bill is expected to be signed into law by Governor Kate Brown, whose office exclaimed, "Yes, yes, yes," Thursday on Twitter, referring to the bill's passage. Planned Parenthood advocates of Oregon also praised the bill. However, David Collada, political director of Oregon Right to Life, said the measure will lead to an increase in abortions. He said, "We're concerned with the fact it provides for free abortions for a whole new group of people and will result in more abortions, including late term." Now, it's a little surprised that the pro-abortion Planned Parenthood group has been accused of selling babies, parts, etc., would be in favor of this because they support all kinds of horrible things. As far as the governor of Oregon goes, he had a statement. Here's what she said. "The ability to control our bodies and make informed decisions about health are critical, providing all Oregonians the opportunity to achieve our full potential and live productive and thriving lives." Attempts to deny access to contraception and family planning are an attack on all Oregonians, particularly women of color, low income, and young women. But what do you mean attempts to deny access? It's abortion. It's wrong, but it's legal in Oregon, as well as various other forms of contraception and family planning. But they've decided it doesn't matter, the fact that some people are against this. Now, as far as choice, I'd like to comment. Women have a choice whether or not to be married. Unmarried women shouldn't be involved in sexual relations. And in modern times, there are contraception options out there. Yet the governor ignores this, trying to say that abortion is a necessary choice, which the Bible doesn't teach or nothing else does. She refuses to recognize that according to the U.S. Declaration of Independence, Americans have, quote, or people, all people, by the way, says, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is something they should be able to have. These are inalienable rights. But apparently she says this doesn't apply to the unborn. In 1 Timothy 4:1, this verse was brought to mind. It says, "Such teachings come through hypocritical liars whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron." I remember when abortion was proposed as being legal, the abortion type people made this argument that an unborn baby is not a human being. Really? Well, then what is it? Is it going to be a snake or a frog? I mean, it's ridiculous. First they would say, well, the first few weeks of life. Now they've got the fact that you should be able to abort the child up until the end. But either way, it's killing babies, no matter what time that they do it. Now, it needs to be realized there's a financial cost for abortion. And that's beyond the actual paying the doctors and the other people in the abortion industry in order to do this. In July of 2017, CBS said, for most Americans, income is on the decline. Said, are you better off than your parents were 50 years ago? And then they cite a study by the National Bureau of Economic Research. The answer, in terms of paychecks, is no. Most Americans are worse off. And they're talking about men having stagnation in lifetime incomes. In real dollars, males have lost close to $300,000 in lifetime earnings compared to the generation that came during the 1950s and 60s boom years. Well, 50 years ago from now would be 1967. What started to happen then? Well, according to the National Abortion Federation, between 1967 and 1973, 1/3 of U.S. states liberalized or repealed their criminal abortion laws. And then in 1973, we had the Roe versus Wade decision where, sadly, abortion became the law of the land. What happened to the United States around that time? I read an article, a summary from an article, Economics, an Introduction to Traditional Progressive Values, from 2008. It said up until 1970, the United States had trade surpluses. From then on, trade deficits. The United States is now a creditor nation, and then it was a creditor nation, now we're a debtor nation. And here's another one called debtor nation. Only a few decades ago, the United States was the world's largest creditor nation. But that dominance began to erode in the 1960s. Right, they started to vote for abortion. It's been worse since. The debt has increased. Let me read something else. This is from the book of Romans, Romans chapter 1, verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. The pro-abortion arguments are unrighteous. Now let's cut down to verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind to do things which are not fitting. Abortion is not fitting. Increasing debt is not fitting. Being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, and unmerciful. I want to comment about this inventors of evil things. They found other ways to abort, other ways to destroy babies and to kill. Now I read the last verse here, verse 32 of this chapter. Who, knowing the righteous judgments of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only those who do the same, but those who approve of them. Abortion is not fitting, nor is increasing U.S. debt. As far as the home of the brave goes, I don't think it's brave to kill infants. On board babies, I think it's an act of cowardice. People are afraid to go through and raise a child they helped create. Promoting and or approving biblically condemned actions is dangerous and puts the U.S. at risk of God's judgment. And the United States, by the way, is by far, in a way, the most indebted nation on earth. I'd like to read something from another article. It says, after 1973, and remember it was 1973, on January 22nd, 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of abortion. Wages, for example, just for inflation, have gone nowhere. Now, how many abortions were there? Or have there been? The one count that I found today, it says from 1973 till April of 2017, there were 59,115,995 abortions. Now, abortion sheds innocent blood. Now, Deuteronomy 21 verse 9 says, so you shall put away the guilt of innocent blood from among you when you do what is right in the sight of the Lord. We are supposed to do what's right in the sight of God and not be involved with innocent blood. Now let's read Proverbs chapter 6 verse 19. These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who spreads lies, and anyone who sows discord among the brethren. Hands that shed innocent blood, heart that devises wicked plans. We have a wicked plan now to try to increase abortions and pay for more of them. Babies are innocent. Killing them is shedding innocent blood. Abortion's not free. And I would also comment that the moral damage is horrific. In Proverbs 14 verse 34 it says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Killing babies through abortion is not righteous. It's a reproach to any country that allows it. Those who consent to abortion are often proud and normally lying themselves. They're not doing violence to a human being. And they are. I mean, they cover the money with abortion. They are against the Bible. Many things that are going on that are wrong associated with abortion. But the abortion people don't say, oh, there's some relationship to the economic stagnation that the United States has faced in certain terms, or the massive debt. But make no doubt, have no doubt about this, the debt of the United States is a big deal. I'd like to read something from the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 28, starting in verse 43. The alien who is among you shall rise higher and higher above you, and you shall become down lower and lower. He shall lend to you, but you will not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. Moreover, all these curses will come upon you and pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the voice of the Lord your God to keep his commandments and statutes, which he commanded you. The destruction of the United States is coming. Now, I'm not going to read this now, but if you'd like, you might go to the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, read verses 6 to 8. It warns those who load up pledges to themselves, that the creditors will rise up against them suddenly. First few verses of that chapter say it's an end-time prophecy. Matter of fact, the Dead Sea Scrolls have a commentary on it and say it's a dead end-time prophecy, which I found that was kind of interesting. Not that we have to rely on those kind of commentators, but I still thought it was interesting along those lines. And as far as the alien rising up, we're reading about in Deuteronomy, much of the debt is owed of the United States to foreign countries, alien countries. Now, should we bother to say anything about this? Well, I think we should. Let's go to the book of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 58. Just read verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Tell my people their transgression, and let the house of Jacob their sins. Abortion is a sin. Because of distortion with abortion and other forms of sexual immorality, etc., and disobedience to God, we're seeing more debt and other crazy things that are going to come back to eventually destroy the United States. Abortion is wrong. Promoting sexual immorality is wrong. And there are consequences, as we read in Romans 1, verses 18 through 32. There are terrible consequences for sin. While other parts of the world do have issues with abortion, the Bible says that the Great Tribulation, or the time of Jacob's trouble, will affect the end-time descendants of Israel first, which would include nations like the United States, which has a particular descent through the son of Jacob, or the grandson of Jacob, the adopted son of Jacob, known as Manasseh. The United States, the land of the free abortion, in the home of the brave abortionists. The state of Oregon should be ashamed of wanting to be the land of the free abortions. But sadly, they're not the only ones. The Bible is true. God's judgment is going to come. Do not let the arguments from the pro-abortionists think that you're protecting a woman's right by allowing her to kill her unborn baby. People don't want to hear what this book says. And we're going to have a time coming where they're going to stop us from saying the truth from the Bible, because they're going to call this hate speech. But it's those who kill and do abortions that are hating. They're hating their unborn children. They shouldn't do such things. This is Dr. Bob Thiel for the Bible News Prophecy Channel.